This story is completely illogical and full of contradictions. Once upon a time, a business owner woman from Switzerland saw a Maasai warrior on a ferry. She fell in love, left her fiance and her comfortable life behind, and moved to Kenya to marry this warrior. Watch this video to find out what happened next. Corinne Hoffman was born in Switzerland into an ordinary family. Her life was easy and predictable. She studied at a religious school, then opened her own wedding dress shop. Corinne's friends were waiting for her to finally get to wear a wedding dress herself, but Corinne was more interested in work than her boyfriend Marco. Their relationship never reached the proposal part, which is probably why this story happened during their trip to Kenya. During the ferry crossing, Marco pointed out a Maasai warrior who was aboard with them to Corinne. His features were so regular, so beautiful that it could be a woman's face, but his demeanor, a proud look and a muscular body convinced me otherwise. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. Sitting in the rays of the setting sun, he looked like a young god. A young warrior named Lekatinga Lepermarijo impressed the woman so much that she literally went crazy over him. She started panicking, trying to figure out how she could see him again. Let's take a look at this handsome man together. Actually, even from the book The White Maasai written by Corinne herself, it's hard to understand what exactly it was that impressed her so much. Maybe it was because her boyfriend was a bit on the smaller side and didn't adorn himself with such beautiful beads. But the fact remains, the woman was so smitten with this man that in just a couple of days she broke up with her fiance, and 6 months later she sold her store and returned to Kenya to reunite with her warrior. And that's where all the fun begins. Much to Corinne's dismay, she found out that the European and Maasai versions of love were somewhat different. The Maasai believe that kissing is disgusting, that the mouth is given to people for food, and they don't know how to make love and don't pay attention to their partners at all. Moreover, there are more restrictions in this matter than pleasure, but her love was so strong that even this fact didn't scare the woman away. The lovers were supposed to live in a small house made of dry cow manure, twigs, and God knows what else. They had to wash in the river and use the bushes for a bathroom. Corinne did not get a chance to impress Lekatinga with her culinary skill because men and women in the Maasai tribe eat separately. And moreover, men can't eat anything a woman has touched or even looked at. So Lekatinga only ever drank tea in the presence of his wife. All these intricacies were explained to Corinne by her friend Priscilla, a woman from the tribe that Corinne got into. To top it all off, Lekatinga, like many Maasai people, used illicit substances and chewed mireya, a herb known for its intoxicating effect on the mind. Getting married also turned out to be a difficult task because Lekatinga didn't have a passport, but bureaucratic troubles didn't scare away the Swiss woman in love. Eventually, Corinne got a Kenyan citizenship and got her wedding, although by the standards of the Maasai, Corinne was already too old for it. She was 27 years old at the time. The groom's mother liked the woman and she said her final word, so the wedding happened. At the wedding, the unpleasant surprises just kept on rolling. For example, Corinne found out that the Maasai men are allowed to marry several women. It's interesting that she didn't think to ask about it in advance, just as she didn't think about hundreds of other things, like the fact that her husband dreamed of having at least 8 children, while Corinne felt that 2 would be more than enough. Actually, the woman wasn't even sure if she could have children at all, so her husband argued that in that case, a second wife would be needed to have children, which convinced Corinne to allow her husband to have a second wife over time. We talked, and I agreed to the following. If in 2 years I didn't give birth to his child, he could marry again. Otherwise, he'd have to wait at least 5 years. He agreed with my proposal and I calmed myself down, thinking that 5 years was a very long time. Overall, we have to give Corinne credit. She adapted to life in the African desert as best as she could. To begin with, the woman bought a car, and even though it broke down almost every time she used it, this purchase nevertheless made her life much easier. Then, Corinne opened a small grocery store, and everything could have turned out well if it weren't for Lekatinga's habit of giving out food on credit and then forgetting about it. Living in terrible conditions without normal food, water, and the ability to wash up, Corinne still didn't give up. She suffered from malaria, but survived thanks to a white friend whom she met at the very beginning of her trip. If her friend hadn't found Corinne in the hospital, she would have most probably died. Then Corinne and Lekatinga had a daughter, Napirai, and the warrior even seemed to be a great father at first, but it didn't last long. Sometime later, Lekatinga said the child wasn't his. He started getting jealous more and more often, while other men of the tribe started discussing who would marry Corinne's daughter, even though she wasn't even a year old at the time. It was then that the woman realized that the love had passed and it was time to save herself and her daughter from these unbearable conditions. One day, having gone home for a visit, Corinne never returned. It wasn't easy, but the woman managed to get a divorce and stayed in Switzerland, where she and her daughter spent a long time restoring their health after living in the tribe. Thus, Corinne spent a total of 4 years in Kenya. After returning home, she continued to support Lukatinga and his mother by sending them money. In 1998, Corinne published her autobiography titled The White Maasai. The book describes in great detail the ways of the tribe and her life in inhuman conditions. And in 2005, Herman Huntberth made a movie based on the book. But let's be honest, she romanticized the image of Lukatinga and the whole story a bit too much. Yet the reality described by Corinne in her autobiography leaves the reader with only one legitimate question. Was it really worth it? Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and watch the rest of our videos. Have a great day. Goodbye.